Company requires using our airline miles for work trips. Another fun story of an obnoxious boss. As I've mentioned in other posts, I used to travel a lot for business, between 30 and 35 weeks a year. Our boss was a frequent traveler as well, and taught us the tricks of the trade for accumulating frequently flyer miles, and especially status, a really great perk. Eventually, he retired and sold the company to new boss. New boss overheard that I had over 500,000 frequent flyer miles with my airline, not credit card points, and said he should implement a new policy that we had to use our personal frequent flyer miles for our business travel, since the company had paid for our trips. The weekend, my wife and I sat down and booked weekend trips all over the country over the next year. Boston for a clam chowder, check. New York City for a Broadway show, check. The Garlic Fest in Gilroy, see a real and delicious thing, BTW, check. My Monday morning, my airline frequent flyer mile account was down to about 15,000 miles. Later that week, it was time to book a trip, and he said I had to use frequent flyer miles. I brought up my account and showed him I didn't have enough miles. He asked where they went, and when I said I had booked some trips, he demanded I redeposit the miles. I pointed out there was a $150 charge per person, and that since it wasn't policy, I wasn't going to pay it. Pissed, announced going forward we needed approval for personal use of our personal frequent flyer miles. Okay, boss, you bet. My next step was to spread my flights over any and every airline I could find, to prevent accumulating the 20,000 miles required to redeem for a free ticket. I was on United, Frontier, American, Delta, Northwest, Continental, US Air, Southwest, etc. At one point, I think I booked a trip on the Mrs. Grace L. Ferguson airline and Storm Door Company. Google it, it's a Bob Newhart routine, and more true now than when he performed it 60 years ago. He eventually figured out what I was up to, and he lost what little patience remained for me. Then the following, paraphrased, took place. Guys, I suppose you think you're a smart guy. Me, no, I know I'm a smart guy. Gus, don't get cute. Me, no, I'm smart. Cute is just a bonus. Look, I see my wife about 10 days a month. I live out of a suitcase. I know the aircraft evacuation speech by heart. Most of my meals are handed to me through a window. And thanks to my willingness to do this, you make hundreds of thousands of dollars. Can you please just let me keep the only perk I get from all this? Gus thought about it for a bit, grunted, fine, keep your miles, and walked away. He edited to clarify these were airline frequent flyer miles, not credit card points. Sorry about the confusion.
Work a double and get written up, or... In high school, a few friends and myself worked at a local chain restaurant. We were fully able to run the day shift, but had never really broken down the equipment and closed up for the evening. One particular night, a few of the night shift had called in sick. We were asked to pull a double and close the restaurant, which we did. Essentially worked from 10 a.m. until after midnight. Myself and my 3 friends and a manager. We were really tired, but felt that we had done the right thing and helped out the company. The next day, the 4 of us come into work another day shift. The day manager pulls us into her office, one by one, and informs us that she would need to write us up because we hadn't properly cleaned and filtered the fry grease, regardless of our leaning in for a double, having never closed or been trained on closing procedures, and having been given permission by the night manager to leave, meaning all closing work had been completed. After a quick chat with my friends, it was aligned that I was going to push back on the write-up, and if the day manager insisted on writing up us, we would quit. I informed the manager that we were collectively not going to sign the write-up slips. Her alternative threat was that we would be fired, to which I informed her that if she insisted on writing us up for helping out, pulling a double, not being trained, and having been released by the night manager, then we would quit, collectively, immediately. She responded with, "If you don't sign the write-up, then you will be fired." A staring contest follows. I eventually break in with an okay. "I guess we are fired then." We turned in our hats, put symbolically, and left. It was really amazing. My friend quit mid-burger prep. My other friends simply walked off the cash register in the middle of taking an order. We clocked out and walked out the back, leaving only the day manager in the restaurant, customers in line, customers at the drive-thru. Later that same day, we decided to return to our place of prior employment, to have dinner. The night shift must have still been sick as the entire restaurant, was staffed with managers from nearby restaurants, same chain, including our day manager, who was now pulling her own double, and the night manager that had released us the prior evening. There was nothing better than eating our burgers and watching the management staff fail at every station, and knowing that their pride, lack of rational flexibility, and threats had resulted in one of the most righteous meals we ever ate together. Needless to say, we were all employed at the next chain restaurant down the street in a matter of days. It's been nearly 30 years, and I remember that standoff, her ultimatum, and our walkout like it was last week.
Converted from salary to hourly, best decision ever. I worked for a mid-size fashion company with around 150 retail stores nationwide as a maintenance and safety coordinator. For months into the job, my manager quit and I picked up everything and was doing fine on my own for years. And I was the only person in charge of maintaining the stores and the alarm systems in all the stores. I did get a pay bump, but not a promotion in title. I put my contact number on every store's emergency contact list, just in case the primary contacts, usually the store managers, don't pick up their phones in case of emergencies. And the store managers almost always refuse to pick up calls during off hours, so my phone would ring at least 2 to 3 times every night. 99% of the times are false alarm, usually caused by window brake sensors getting tripped, by vibration from a big truck passing by, or a leaf hitting the window. I hated it but had to do it, because if no one on the emergency contact list picks up the phone, the alarm company automatically calls the police for dispatch, and there are penalties for false alarms, ranging from $50 to $200 per incident after 2 or 3 freebies, varies by location. In 2017, Department of Labor passed a law requiring all employees making under a certain amount of money to be converted to hourly so they can earn overtime. My salary was $800 short of making the cut. I brought it up with HR, stating that an hourly schedule would actually interfere with my duties, and an $800 raise in pay would make everything easier. And HR simply said, well, that's too bad and we can't do anything about it at the moment. Well, okay. After that conversation, I put my phone on mute and stopped caring about anything outside of my 9 to 5. In hindsight, life was actually so much easier and better that way, and not sure why I even wanted to stay on salary. Months go by without any serious issues, except for the penalties for false alarms starting to pile up. One day, accounting and operations brought me into the office asking what those costs were. I told them what they were, and operations sent out a memo reminding all store managers that safety is of critical importance, and they have to pick up calls from alarm companies. No one bothered asking why there was a surge of these additional costs, and I didn't care enough to remind them that it was because of me. 2 more months go by, and one morning I woke up to almost 20 missed calls on my cell. Apparently, one of our Florida stores was broken into the night before at around 3 a.m. The store manager tried to get a hold of me because I was the one in charge of requesting dispatching vendors for things like emergency board-up. After an hour of trying to get a hold of me, she eventually started calling up everybody on the hierarchy for help, and I had 6 missed calls from the senior VP of operations alone. Eventually, the director of constructions was able to get a crew to board up the store, but that was almost 3 hours later, and everyone was really pissed. And surprisingly, the second I stepped into the office, I was called into the office with all the senior management and HR, and were asked why I was not there to take care of it. And I simply replied, because I already clocked out. The senior VP of operations was obviously not pleased with that answer and said it was my duty, and I needed to be on standby at all times to handle these situations, even during off hours, to which I stated, oh, so I should be on call then. In that case, I'll have to work with accounting to get properly compensated for my on-call hours once we have a schedule established. The room went silent, and nothing came out of the rather short meeting. Later that afternoon, HR called me into the office again, asking whether I'd like to become salaried again with a pay bump. I said I'll take the pay bump, but I'd rather stay hourly, and walked out. They didn't give me the pay bump. And it's sorry I didn't provide what happened next. So here's some closure. I was put on call for a few weeks because it was summer at the time of the incident, and HVAC systems kept failing over the weekends in our Florida stores. And again, I was the one to dispatch vendors to fix them. Money was great during that period low. Eventually, the director of constructions was put on as the emergency contact for off-hour issues, and he absolutely hated it. I left the company last year. They had to scramble to get a replacement and hired a maintenance supervisor with an MBA in political science, but no related experience. My last contact from the company was the supervisor, asking me what the login credentials were for all the 150 stores' alarm systems. I didn't reply.
Boss tells woman her headscarf is unprofessional, so now she shows up in cosplay every day. Not sure if I'm allowed to post this story that I just read, but it's so perfect for this subreddit I have to share it. Delete if not appropriate. Story. Edit. OMG, thanks for all the awards.
Check out my other excellent videos.